I'm Lamar Bailey. I'm the Director of Security Research here at nCircle, and today we'll be talking about stacking the security deck in your favor. It's how to deal yourself a winning hand with your security products. So we start off with what is in your hand. What cards do you hold? Well, everything in your hand is what's in your environment. So that's your operating systems, your databases, your office applications, networking gear, and browsers in your environment. These are all things that you would hold in your hands in the poker table. So you want to basically stack that so that you have the best option to win. Attackers are always out there looking for ways to get in. They're looking at what stuff you have in your environment. They want to see your hand. You have to keep that. You have to keep it hidden. If you go back and look, the deck is increasing over the years. From 2002 to 2013, we've been tracking CVEs. Around 2009, the CVEs started declining, so we had fewer vulnerabilities being reported. In 2012, that took a big jump. So 2012 was higher than the last 2 years in reported CVEs, and 2013 is on a record pace also. So there's more vulnerabilities out there. There's more attackers looking to exploit these vulnerabilities to get into your environment, to steal your data, to steal your personal information, your proprietary information. So you've got to make sure that you stack your hand in such a way that it's really hard for them to win. So there's a few things that you have. The aces in your hand, and these are the aces that nCircle gives you. Some of the more common applications out there are Adobe Flash, Windows, Java, Adobe PDF, Linux, Oracle, Firefox, Mac OS X. And here's a view of some of the coverage that we have for these applications. This view goes back to the beginning of CVEs. For Adobe Flash, for instance, there's 265 vulnerabilities that have been reported. nCircle covers 250 of those. We cover everything that's current. The ones that we don't cover are back from the 07 days and beyond. Windows, there's 965. We cover 769 of those. And it goes on. Java, Oracle. These are the ones that we see most in environments, so these are the ones we have the highest amount of coverage for. So these are the aces. These are things you don't have to worry about. You know this is the highest card in your deck, you're good. Then you have your wild cards. These are the things that most companies don't cover or can't cover. Custom applications. Almost every large organization out there, they've written a custom app for something. Did the guy that wrote it actually have security knowledge? Did he make it secure? Yes, it's only an internal application maybe, but if someone can access it, they can exploit it. Legacy applications. We see this a lot in large enterprises, in governments, in schools, in medical, where you have something that's been on the network since, I don't know, 04. Never been patched, it's no longer supported, but it's critical to your network and the way that you do business. So you've got to protect that. And then you have 0 days that come out. A 0 day is basically a vulnerability that's being released and there's no patch for it. It happens, it hits the wild, people are using it, and there's no patch from your vendor, so what do you do at that point? Well, to combat that, we've released our custom ASPL. Within nCircle, this allows customers to write custom checks for their environment. There's two basic versions of custom ASPL. We'll call the first one Custom ASPL Basics. These let you do various rules, kind of generic, easy rules to write. So a registry key, for instance, which this one shows. This is a registry key that checks for a Windows box to make sure it's the HKLM registry key exists, and then see what's in there. Another basic ASPL rule could be to send data as an HTTP 1.0 request to a host and check the response that comes back to make sure it meets the standard that we're looking for. So these are basic, easy checks that any customer can write within IP360, but it gives you an idea of the other things you can go beyond this. These are some of the basics. And this is in our way of teaching you how to fish. So now you can teach our end users how to write your own checks for things that may be in your environment. Maybe that piece of equipment that's been there since 04 that nobody touches, it's not supported anymore, you need to write a custom rule for that to do an HTTP request. Well, here's a good example, and here's how you go do that. Now this covers the basics of what you can do with ASPL, but we've extended it this year. Now you can also go through and write Python scripts to really extend what you can do with your checks. This is our new custom ASPL now with Python, new and improved. So to give you an example, here's a new rule. This one here will look at the WinINI in Windows and then pull all the data from that and store it in the instance data in IP360, so you can review that and look to see what's in it. So you can look, the rules a lot more, it's a lot longer, it's a lot more complicated, but still it's easy to write. If someone knows Python, they can write these rules. Python's a quite popular programming language, pretty easy to pick up. But it gives you a lot more that you can do with the product now. And then we can even get more detail with this. It doesn't always have to be looking for a vulnerability. Here's a good Python rule. This one does an SSH connection to the host, grabs your resolve.conf file, checks it to determine what the DNS entries are in that file. Do they match Google's DNS entries, yes or no? And returns back true or false for that. So you can actually use it to see how your machines have some light configuration. You know, has this machine been reconfigured for something else? So you can see that using Python, you can really extend the use of the rule set that we have within IP360. Now we got to stack the odds in your favor. So let's talk about the scoring. IP360 uses a unique scoring mechanism. It's a heuristic scoring. Here you can see the algorithm we use for scoring. Quite complicated when you look at it, and you need a math degree to figure it out, but the end result's great for you. We look at time, we look at the risk factor, we look at the skills. And our scores can range from 1 to over 55,000 for a particular vulnerability on a host. So instead of looking at some of the products where you have high, medium, or low, you know, you'll have 18 billion highs in your environment where you start at. Or even looking at CVSS, you know, you're 0 through 10. Okay, you've still got a ton of 10s on your environment where you start at. Our scores are much more granular. That way you can go through and you can look and say, okay, I've got 10 hosts over 55,000. And guess what? That's where I start at. Once I knock those 10 hosts out, I drop down to the next level and knock those out. And it walks you down your threat tree, basically. The higher the score, the more vulnerable that host is, the higher target it will be for a hacker. An easier target it will be for the hacker. Now, we've got our heuristic scoring, but you're not tied to that specifically. You can also tweak this scoring. So you can modify the dates. We use the date within our algorithm. The longer a vulnerability has been released, the higher it is, because the more widespread someone is going to know about it and use it. You can modify that. You can take date out. You can normalize dates. The risk modifiers in there, whether it's an easy, whether it's been in an exploit kit, all these play into that. You can adjust that. You can adjust the vulnerability classes. So there's a lot that you can do to modify our algorithm that's already there to match your environment and help you say this is what it means for us. That's basically the idea. Use the tools that you have, learn how to use them, make sure that you can write custom content for your environment, because if you took all the companies that are here in RSA and put them all together, they wouldn't cover every threat that's out there. It's not possible. If it was possible, you couldn't afford what we would sell you. So we're teaching you to fish, you know. Here's our product. We're giving you all the aces that are in here. These are the things that we've got completely covered. You're fine with. Don't worry about those. Go look at these odd things that are in your network that we don't have. We don't cover. They're too old to even buy anymore. And write your content for those. That way you stack the deck in your favor, and it makes it really hard. You have the winning hand when a hacker comes to your environment trying to win. They've got a pair of deuces. You've got to roll flush. So thank you.